Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining this afternoon. My name's Steve O'Connor. Just want to introduce myself first of all and set the scene about what we're actually doing today. So, I've been working in transport and logistics for 35 years, both in civilian and military roles. I found my leadership voice in my 40s and I've been passionate about helping others develop their leadership muscle for about the last 5 years, coaching leaders and potential leaders to bring out their full potential. As well as a senior leader in logistics, I'm also an accredited Mountain Training Association hill and moorland leader, an England athletics running coach, and a British cycling ride leader. And today, I want to give you a little bit of my backstory and also how reinvention and resilience has played a massive part in my life, and how a life in the outdoors can also help to develop this muscle for us all. So, setting the scene of young Steve there in his pink shorts with their crafty smile, he moved through life to become the 50-something-year-old Steve I am now. And for me, one of the earliest challenges was I had older parents. In fact, the oldest parents of anyone in my school. Constantly, I'd be asked if my granddad or my nan was picking me up from school again. And sometimes it was just an innocent mistake, but a lot of the time it was teasing from the classmates because that's what kids do, innit? My dad was once described himself as a 48-year-old sex maniac, which certainly made for some awkward moments when people in school asked me what my dad did for a living. So I grew up on the Woodchurch estate in the 1980s. You can see it there just on the left-hand picture. And life wasn't exactly easy or safe. The Woodchurch estate was the largest council estate in Europe at the time, but that's not a claim to fame we shouted about. It was a tough place. Gangs and drugs were everywhere. Packs of stray dogs that I was terrified of around the streets. And it was a police no-go area at the time. It wasn't unusual to see a police car turn into the estate and turn straight back out again. Even when fires would break out on the estate, the fire brigade would be accompanied by a police riot van just so our brave firemen couldn't be attacked by the locals. My family lived on the ground floor of a 13-story block of flats, which is just right in the middle of the picture on the left. My dad was only a slightly built man, but took no nonsense in the tower block from the drug dealers. And it was an attitude that landed him in hospital more than once as they caught him off guard and gave him a beating. The flat came with the job, but not much else. And for many people, the estate felt suffocating with its endless rows of flats and concrete. But for me, just outside those flats was a patch of waste ground with ditches and tall grass. And more than to most, it was a forgotten bit of land that I saw. But to me, it was my world. It was Vietnam. It was the fighting fields of World War II, or it was the Wild West when it was cowboy and Indian time. I'd spend hours out there just building dens, playing army, pretending to be the hero of my own adventures. But indoors, I was pretty shy. I was awkward. I was not great at making friends. Outdoors, I was bold, imaginative, and free. And that waste ground taught me how to escape the chaos and find my own space, which was a lesson that would serve me well later in life. But as it does, life changed. By the time I hit secondary school, running around pretending to be Rambo wasn't exactly cool anymore. So I retreated into myself, trying to fit into a world that didn't feel quite right. Then came Dave. Dave was my hero, and he introduced me to the army cadets. And suddenly I was back outside, learning survival skills, camping, shooting, getting muddy, learning to read a map and cook for myself in the outdoors, and more importantly, making friends who just didn't care how cool I was. The cadets gave me a sense of belonging, a newfound confidence, and they also gave me my first taste of resilience, like when I was had to eat a questionable worm stew cooked over a campfire by a Royal Marine adult instructor who thought that a pinch of salt meant half the container. At 17, I decided to take it a step further and join the Royal Air Force. The brochures in the careers office showed guys playing volleyball on tropical beaches, parachuting, camouflage faces, steely eyes waiting to ambush an unsuspecting enemy. But my first role was in a supply warehouse. Picture a massive Amazon warehouse full of nuts and bolts. Not exactly Top Gun. So I spent more time counting those nuts and bolts than having adventures, but I wasn't ready to give up on my dream of excitement and challenge. So I applied for Tactical Supply Wing, which was based at RAF Stafford. TSW, or TISWAS as it was known, certainly made basic training feel like a spa day. TISWAS isn't for the faint-hearted. The physical and mental demands are relentless. You're pushed to your limits and then asked to go further. You work long hours, living in holes in the ground, building hidden fuel installations close to enemy lines, soaked in fuel, waiting in quiet camouflage for a helicopter to appear over the horizon. You then resupply it with fuel, supplies, rotor still turning, you're climbing behind red-hot exhausts, hoping the fumes from your fuel-soaked combats don't burst into flames. But I loved it. And over my career, I completed 13 tours of Northern Ireland during the Troubles, dodging snipers and managing high-pressure situations that taught me how to stay calm no matter what. Northern Ireland was just the beginning. I also served in Bosnia during the conflict, where snipers weren't just a possibility, they were a daily reality. And one of the most dangerous tasks was the weekly drive down Sniper's Alley in flak jackets and armed to the teeth to buy a Land Rover full of beer that we could then sell around the camp to ensure we could keep going our illicit booze business. I've travelled to hotspots around the world, often with danger just around the corner, but even in those moments, the outdoors was my sanctuary. Whether it was a quiet night under the stars or marching through rugged terrain, I always found clarity in the wilderness. Then, as it does for all of us, life moved on. Leaving the RAF was hard, and civilian life certainly didn't come with the camaraderie or sense of purpose. I ended up as a truck driver, as many ex-forces do, and then began working for a large German supermarket in the UK, where I learned a valuable life lesson. Sometimes the people getting promoted aren't necessarily the sharpest tools in the shed, and watching them, I thought, if they can do it, surely I can. So I proved it by looking for the value that they brought to the business and learning those skills and making sure that I was as good as them, if not better. But that wasn't enough, and I felt stuck. And that's when I turned back to the outdoors. I started organising charity events, hikes, adventure races, including the Hunted 10K, where participants got a 15-minute head start on the 10K before a team of Royal Marines hunted them down. A Snowdon hike, where we had 4 seasons in one day, scorching out sunshine as we started, and then 70-mile-an-hour winds on the summit. But I got everybody down alive, which was the main point. I recently took a team to the Brecon Beacons to complete the awe-inspiring SAS selection route. Anything that got me and others outside reminded me of the power of nature to heal and transform. And thank goodness it did, because after that, life threw a few curveballs. First of all, in my 40s, I lost my own mum. My mum was a strong, stoic woman. She worked right up until the day she died at 85, and it's only really now I understand the struggle that she must have had in her life. My wife now is a strong and successful autistic woman and an HR director for a global business. And only now, looking at how she inspires me every single day with the way she adapts to a neurotypical world, I see so many traits and mannerisms and behaviours that I saw in my old mum. And in a world that still doesn't really understand autism in women, I am in awe at how both my mum and my partner navigate life. I'm not sure what Freud would say about that, but there we go. My mum was my rock. She was my compass and a person I turned to when I needed grounding. A loss left me completely feeling unmoored. And my family have never been a supportive lot, nor were they ambitious. And they pretty much left me to deal with the funeral arrangements, sort out all the affairs, while they just got on with the grief. My family just sat back and I had no time to grieve at all. 6 months later, and I still find this difficult to talk about now, I found myself alone in my car, crying and just thinking about how I could just drive straight into a wall or a river and just be free of the overwhelming sense of grief and abandonment that I felt. I think at this point, I also realised that I'd never fully grieved for the loss of my dad, who had died when I was 23. I was so tied up in raising a family and looking after my mum that once again, I just did not deal with that at all. But luckily, I sought help. I spoke to people. And then once again, the outdoors came to my rescue. Long hikes and quiet runs gave me a space to grieve, to reflect, and to eventually heal. And then, 12 months later, life threw another curveball at me. After completing a coast-to-coast bike ride in a single day, stupid, I know, I became really ill and I was admitted to hospital with what the doctors initially told me was flu. Then they told me it was pneumonia. And then they discovered I had 20 blood clots in my heart and lungs. The doctors told me after a month in hospital that I had severe lung scarring and would never run or cycle seriously again. And for a moment, I accepted that fate. I even went on eBay and bought a PlayStation thinking that I'd just embrace a new, quieter lifestyle. 20 whole minutes I lasted on that computer game before I stuck it back on eBay and decided to prove the doctors wrong. I started with a couch to 5K. That first day I went out, I walked, jogged a tiny bit, walked, and just got myself through 1 mile. And to this day, throughout all the events I've taken part in, that mile is my greatest achievement. And even now brings a tear to my eye when I think about it, because that was the day when I realized I was capable of so much more. 6 months later, I completed a half marathon. 3 months after that, I ran my first full marathon in Manchester. And a year to the day I came out of hospital, I took on the fan dance race, carrying a 35-pound pack along the SES selection route. It wasn't fast and it wasn't pretty, but it got done. A few years after that, I went through the breakdown of a 20-year relationship. It was really sad, but certainly the right thing for both of us to do. I struggled there with an overwhelming sense of change and loss. But throughout it all, I ran. I ran every single day for 496 days without fail. I put on my trainers and I got out there and I ran. And I firmly believe it was those long miles of thought and reflection that eventually enabled my next reinvention. Since then, I've taken on some of the toughest endurance events in the world, including the legendary Spine Race, an event that I now have a love affair with and also hate in equal parts. And if you don't know, the Spine Race is not just a race, it's a battle. It's 268 miles along the Pennine Way. In the depth of winter, think freezing temperatures, waist-deep snow in the recent event, driving rain, wind strong enough to knock you off your feet, with brutal terrain, rocky trails, boggy moors, relentless climbs that test every ounce of strength you have. And the weather, unpredictable, unforgiving. 1 minute you're trudging through snow, the next you're wading through mud soaked to the bone. And on top of that, you've got the sleep deprivation. The clock doesn't stop, so you can't either. So if you want to finish, you snatch an hour or two of sleep here and there, often in a freezing tent or a makeshift checkpoint, or as I did last year, in somebody's shed at the side of the road. And by the end, you're not just battling the elements, you're battling your own mind. The Spine Race taught me that we're capable of so much more than we think. It showed me that resilience isn't just about physical strength. It's about mental toughness, grit, and the willingness to just keep moving when every ounce of your grey matter is telling you to stop, no matter how hard it gets. The outdoors has been my greatest teacher. It's taught me lessons that you can't learn in a classroom or a boardroom. It taught me to be comfortable with myself. When you're out in the wild, it's just you and your thoughts. There's no one to distract you, no noise to drown out your inner voice. And let me tell you, that voice is brutal. But the more time that I spend out there, the more I learn to talk to myself like I'd talk to a friend, with kindness, understanding, and encouragement. It also taught me the power of quick decision making. When a storm's rolling in, you don't have the time to overthink your options. You make a call, you commit. I've learned to approach decisions like plastering a wall, where you throw everything at the wall, get everything out there, and then smooth it out and refine as you go. And perhaps most importantly, it's taught me resilience. The wilderness strips life down to its bare essentials. It forces you to confront your fears, your limitations, but also shows how strong you really are. The key takeaway for me is that throughout our lives, we need to constantly reinvent ourselves, or we can become stuck in old patterns. Life is a constant journey of reinvention, with key milestones requiring us to adapt, grow, and redefine who we are. At each stage, we all face unique challenges and opportunities. Learning independence and identity and self-expression when we start school, shifting from family dependence to a structured social environment, and then adolescence, where we're navigating our identity again, navigating our ambitions, our independence, embracing new freedoms and responsibilities. And then we move on to reinventing ourselves as a family person, where we maybe start a family or getting married, and reinventing priorities to focus on partnership and caregiving and shared goals. And that continues through our 20s and 30s and into our 40s. Now, the term midlife crisis for me is a cultural myth, and it was invented by a psychologist in a paper back in 1950 something. But it's often rooted in outdated stereotypes. In reality, this stage is better described as midolescence, much the same as adolescence. In midolescence, which is your 40s and your 50s, it's a phase of reflection, growth, personal renaissance, and that's often misunderstood as the midlife crisis. And into our 50s, we can then work on becoming a modern elder, where we embrace wisdom, mentorship, and legacy building while we continue to stay curious and open to learning. It's a time of self-discovery and recalibration, an opportunity to redefine and focus on purpose, relationships, and fulfillment. A chance to embrace growth and to make intentional choices about leadership, career, and life priorities. Reinvention in our working lives mirrors this. So our careers mirror these life stages, with different leadership roles aligning to specific phases of our personal growth. In our early career, we're building skills, learning from mentors, exploring possibilities. In our mid-career, we take on leadership roles that match our growing experience and confidence. And then in that midolescence period, we're leading with wisdom and empathy, focusing on transformational rather than transactional leadership. And as a modern elder, we can then begin to mentor and guide others and create a legacy by sharing knowledge and supporting growth. Key for me here is avoiding the temptation to rush progression. True leadership is built on a foundation of experiences and lessons learned over time. And reinvention isn't a single moment. It's a lifelong practice. And by embracing change and leaning into transitions and taking on roles that align with our stage of life, we can unlock our fullest potential, both personally and professionally. So resilience is the lifelong companion to reinvention. Reinvention and resilience are inseparable, and as we navigate life's transitions, resilience is the muscle that enables us to adapt to change, embrace new identities, and challenges hardships in our life. In order to overcome hardships, you must actively seek them out. This is why the so-called imposter syndrome is an amazing thing. It means you are consistently pushing yourself out of your depth and developing, facing responsibilities and difficulties head on rather than retreating from them, turning obstacles into opportunities for growth, and building resilience as a lifelong practice. Resilience is not a fixed trait. It's a skill that must be developed and maintained like a muscle. It grows stronger, consistent effort and use. So facing challenges only delays growth. Tackling them builds confidence and fortitude. Learning from failure, each setback provides valuable lessons that strengthen our ability to handle future adversity. Cultivate a growth mindset, see challenges as opportunities for reinvention and personal development. Stretching beyond our comfort zone to build resilience, whether through new experiences, difficult conversations, or challenging goals. Resilience doesn't just help us survive, it enables us to lead and to thrive. In leadership, resilient leaders inspire each other by demonstrating strength, adaptability, calm under pressure. And in life transitions, resilience provides the foundation to reinvent ourselves during those major life milestones. The ability to persevere through adversity makes reinvention possible, unlocking our full potential. Avoidance of this weakens resilience. Embracing adversity strengthens it. By facing life's challenges head on, we prepare ourselves for the next stage of reinvention. We become more adaptable, courageous, and effective. Resilience is the bridge that carries us through life's reinventions. It allows us to face hardship, emerge stronger, and grow into the leaders and individuals we're meant to be. We can keep developing this muscle because it is our greatest asset in navigating change. Resilience itself is, as I've said, like a muscle, and you can exercise it and develop it by actually putting yourself in difficult and unfamiliar situations. There's a part of the brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, or the AMCC, and this is the part of the brain that controls resolve and perseverance, according to Stanford neuroscientist Andrew Huberman. When you step into new and unfamiliar situations or environments, this part of the brain is activated, and the more you do this and the more uncomfortable situations you are placed in, the bigger and stronger this part of the brain goes. So let me ask you this question. When was the last time you were in a situation where you were totally out of your depth and you had to figure a way out? Imagine this. You receive a train ticket in the post. In 24 hours, you need to use that train ticket to get to the destination stated. When you arrive, you're collected from the station and taken to your overnight accommodation. Early the next morning, you're blindfolded, taken to a location, given a map, a compass, and a grid reference that you must get to within the next 24 hours. The first task is to locate your starting point on the map, and when you do, you're left alone. This is an event called the Wild Escape. And so far, we've trialed this event with ex-military types and some business leaders, and now we want to make it available to the wider business population. Participants from this event will get training in skills that last you a lifetime, a chance to make decisions and hone your resilience in an environment outside the boardroom or workplace and increase your confidence, an opportunity to challenge yourself. Plus, you'll get prepared for this event with training in how to use a map and compass, emergency survival, and throughout, you'll be tracked by the Wild Escape Control safety team. So you get 2 days training, a comprehensive kit list, emergency survival training. Our tracking is 24 hours and minute to minute. You have an emergency satellite messaging service. And at the minute, we've also got an early bird offer. It's 50% off the normal price. So what can you do? You can give me a call for a free breakthrough call where we can sit down and we can discuss exactly how we can tailor this event for you and your teams. We'll then develop a personalized plan, and then you can start a new chapter in your leadership. So I am on a mission to help as many people as possible develop their resilience and map out a clear mission in life to lead to themselves so that they can lead others. And through the Wild Escape event and bespoke team training, I'm looking to use the experience, the skills and knowledge that I have gained to coach, mentor and train the next generation of leaders. So I want this for you and your leaders and your organization. And if you want this, you can contact me so that we can have a chat about how I can help you develop your leadership teams. You can drop me a message here through LinkedIn or whatever platform you're watching this on. You can drop me a WhatsApp message, or if you scan that QR code, you can book in a call with me at a time that's convenient to us both. If you take anything away from today, it's that we need to constantly be putting ourselves in difficult and uncomfortable situations. We need to grow our resilience and we need to reinvent ourselves each time we do. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I look forward to speaking to some of you in the very near future. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.